Hello everybody, it's Jackson Fulcher here, and yes, it is that time finally to go over the worst films of this year. Now, if you've seen my top 15 best, you know why I'm doing a top 15 for this list. You know that I haven't seen every movie that's come out, so there might be some movies that if you're wondering they aren't there, it's probably because I haven't seen it. So with that being said, let's just get right on into the dishonorable mentions, because there are a few. There were a lot of horrible movies that have been released this year, and I saw a lot. I've seen about 108 movies in total this year, and there are a lot of horrible ones. So my dishonorable mentions are The Fifth Wave, Zoolander 2, Masterminds, Allegiant, The Other Side of the Door, The Boss, The Neon Demon, Mother's Day, and Alice Through the Looking Glass. So with those dishonorable mentions being mentioned, let's get into my number 15. Purge election year is the third installment of the Purge trilogy, which should have never been made, but because of the huge success that the first Purge movie had, we're here now. I'm honestly so surprised that there are people actually out there that will defend these movies, saying that they're legitimately good because they're clever pieces of satire on today's society. May I ask, what's so clever about these movies? They're all stupid. The Purge election year probably being the dumbest. And what makes me so mad is that Frank Grillo and Elizabeth Mitchell, they had potential to be good characters in this movie, and they're trying, but they waste their characters. Instead, they make some dumb decisions, and they're surrounded by other dumb characters, irritating characters, portrayed horribly by some pretty terrible actors, including the candy bar girl. Shut In is a low-budget horror film that you've probably either never heard of or you just didn't go see. That's the case for a few other movies on this list as well. This movie had Naomi Watts, Charlie Heaton, and Jacob Tremblay, three people that are pretty good, and they all do pretty terribly in this movie. Save for Naomi Watts, I think she did the best she could out of what she was given, but Charlie Heaton, man, he went straight from Stranger Things, which he was really good in, to being one of the worst actors I've ever seen. And Jacob Tremblay, he was nominated for an Oscar for his performance in Room, then he does this crap. I guess that's what happens when you're a child actor and you're nominated for an Oscar. You just decide to do bullcrap for the rest of your life. And what surprised me the most is that apparently this script was on a blacklist, that it was the most liked screenplay that was never made into a movie. And when you're watching it, when you get the premise, you're like, okay, this sounds like a neat idea, but as the rest of the movie unfolds, you're like, that is so stupid. There's one twist reveal that they make, and I'm just like, that does not make sense to anything that I've been watching for the past 40 minutes or so. The Disappointments Room is another low-budget horror film you probably never heard of or you just didn't go see. This movie was just kind of put out there by Relativity Studios because they got bankrupt and they were just like, oh yeah, we have this movie, just put it out, whatever. Similar to my only positive with Shut In, Kate Beckinsale in this movie was at least trying, and I think actually a rewrite of the script maybe could have helped this movie. Maybe it could have turned into a kind of solid psychological horror film. But no, this is one of the most uneventful horror films I've honestly seen this entire year. By the end of the movie, it feels like you just watched nothing. It was just a collection of random scenes compiled together to make a movie. And then by the end of it, you're just like, that doesn't seem like that connects. That didn't really make an impact on this. What did I just watch? And especially with the ending, you're just like, so was this happening the whole time? Or was this happening the whole time? I'm so confused! And I was honestly so surprised when I found out that the director of this movie was DJ Caruso, director of Disturbia, Eagle Eye, I Am Number 4, and the upcoming Triple X Return of Xander Cage. He did a low-budget, crappy horror film. Who would have known? The Darkness was the worst horror film I saw this summer, and I think if more people went out to see it, I think this would have been a really controversial one, especially with how they portrayed autism with the character played by young Bruce Wayne from Gotham. His character is honestly so offensive to people with autism. I'm honestly so surprised that there's not more news about this. I think there should. I think there should be an uproar over how they do it in this movie. But I'm not that surprised that not too many people did go out to see it, because this is pretty much every horror movie cliche in the book. There is a book, Horror Movie Cliches 101. The director probably read it and I was like, alright, I'm going to include this in this scene, this in that scene, and this in that scene, and I'm going to get Kevin Bacon and Radha Mitchell to be in it. And they're trying, but you just can't deny that they're still pretty terrible. Ice Age Collision Course is the fifth installment of a series that should have gone straight to DVD since the second movie, but no, they kept making money because people kept going out to see them, and now we're at the fifth movie, and I checked the US box office and I was like, oh my gosh, it's finally bombing. Finally, there won't be another Ice Age movie, until I checked the worldwide numbers. And now there's probably going to be an Ice Age 6, 7, maybe 10. I just don't see what's so great about following a huge roster of characters that are all annoying and irritating to watch and unredeemable. The voice actors honestly feel like they're just phoning it in, and some of them are just trying too hard. The animation, that's some great work right there. Blue Sky Studios, you can't deny, they pump out some great animation quality in their movies, but you also can't deny that the entire running time of this movie is just filled with some of the most irritating character moments of the whole year, some really horrible humor, and the conclusion of this movie, how they try to make the asteroid not hit them even though you really want the asteroid to destroy them all, how they are able to find a way to move the asteroid. It's one of the dumbest things I've seen this entire year, and believe it or not, Neil deGrasse Tyson is cameoing in this movie. Yet there's some really dumb science going on, but he still decides to be in this movie. So I guess Blue Sky Studios pays really well. Keeping Up with the Joneses is a horrible comedy that fails at pretty much everything that it's trying to do. Zach Galifianakis and Isla Fisher had no chemistry with each other. John Hamm and Gal Gadot also had no chemistry with each other. The action scenes were flat, the comedy was terrible, and this movie honestly is a little forgettable, and I think I probably would have put this lower on the list. But I found out who was directing this movie, the guy who did Superbad, Adventureland, and Paul, and I was just like, okay, that's just terrible. I know he can do better. Why did he do this? There is really nothing about this movie that screamed a Superbad joke, or something you'd see in Paul or Adventureland. It was just so forgettable. How did he direct this movie? There is a lot of movies on this list that I couldn't believe who was directing them. Max Steel is a movie that we for some reason got because Max Steel is so popular. I know they made a show in 2013, but I think they canceled that, and I tried getting through the first episode, and I couldn't. It was horrible, yet we got the movie anyways because they want to make their own superhero movie. Even though it has the lamest superhero ever, Max is pretty much the lame version of Tony Stark in this movie, and Steel, what an annoying side character in this movie. I think maybe this hero could work in his own movie. It's just the way they do it here just comes across so cheap and generic and lame. Even the villain played by Andy Garcia, when he gets into his villainous costume, I was laughing out loud. He looked goofy. Oh, and what was up with that dust cloud monster that Max had to fight? What was up with that? That never showed up again, ever. Are they saving that for the sequel that will never be made because no one went to see this movie because there was barely any marketing? Ride Along 2 was the first movie I gave an F to this entire year. Boy, did that set a tone, because there are a lot of horrible movies and comedies to come out, and Ride Along 2 is also a comedy. It's the first one I saw this year that I absolutely hated. Kevin Hart and Ice Cube have no chemistry with each other. Why did they make a sequel to this? Oh yeah, the first movie made a lot of money, even though critically, no one really liked it. The financial part is what's most important here. Olivia Munn, what a horrible year. She had Office Christmas Party, she was the worst part of X-Men Apocalypse, she had no character in that movie, and then there's this movie where she's just utterly useless, and Ken Jeong, this is also a pretty bad year for him, because on the same weekend that Ride Along 2 came out, he had another horrible movie. Oh, Ken. And Benjamin Bratt as the villain was awful, the plot was not intriguing at all, it wasn't investing, the action scenes were flat, but because, once again, the financial aspect of this movie made a lot of money at the box office, we're probably getting a Ride Along 3. When the Bough Breaks is another generic stalker film from Screen Gems. They've been doing this for a while now with No Good Deed and The Perfect Guy. I guess they're just never gonna learn. I guess they really like their stalker movies. And I guess Morris Chestnut likes them too, because he was in The Perfect Guy, and not only did he come back for this movie, but he's a producer for it. So I guess Screen Gems pays really well too. That's all I can really think of when I see people signing on to this movie. I think the studio just pays really well, because there's nothing a part of this script that makes it seem like they were actually interested in it. And Jazz Sinclair as the villain, oh my god, she's awful. The character is just stupid, and then you have the actress. This is her first role in a movie, and she's awful. I hope she gets better in the future, because this is a really horrible start, and I find it really funny. I watched Luke Cage before this movie, and I saw Theo Rossi, and I was like, oh, he's really good as Shades. And then I see this movie, and I'm like, oh, it's Shades. Oh no. Oh my god. Incarnate was without a doubt the worst horror film I've seen this year, because it had the most potential. Inception meeting The Exorcist. That could be really good, but instead they wasted it here. It's like the director of The Darkness in this movie loaned the horror movie cliche book so that he could apply every horror movie cliche in this movie. Speaking of which, who directed this movie? Oh yeah, Brad Payton, who did San Andreas last year. He went from San Andreas to a low-budget horror film that barely anyone saw? There's nothing about this movie that screams, oh, this is a Brad Payton movie. It just feels so Blumhouse and WWE, because they helped making this movie too. Aaron Eckhart pretty much just did his Batman voice from I, Frankenstein again. If you've seen I, Frankenstein, you know the voice I'm talking about. Every other character in this movie is stupid and generic, and young Bruce Wayne from The Darkness shows up again in this movie. I guess he's got to deal with Blumhouse or something. I guess he's going to be in every Blumhouse movie from now on. And I've seen a lot of stupid conclusions in horror movies, but this conclusion right here in this one is definitely one of the stupidest I've seen for the entire year. Sorry for the camera angle change, I just needed a quick drink. Alright, I'm good, let's continue on. Nine Lives, when I first saw the trailer for, I thought this is a joke. There's no way they made this into an actual movie, but they did, and what makes it even worse, it's directed by the guy who did Men in Black. Are you kidding me? So first, DJ Caruso for The Disappointments Room, Brad Payton for Incarnate, Greg Mottola for Keeping Up with the Joneses, and now this guy doing 9 Lives. Really? What makes it even more surprising, they got Kevin Spacey, Jennifer Garner, Christopher Walken. How did they get this cast? I don't know. This seems like the kind of movie that no one would make nowadays. People would just look at it and go, like, yeah, they're really gonna make that, but they actually made it? This is the kind of movie, though, that is so bad that it's hilariously awful. You could watch this with a group of friends and just make fun of how terrible it is. So for that reason, it's not like the worst movie of the year. That being said, there are so many horrible elements about this movie, like the comedy, the visual effects for the CGI cat. When it's a real cat, it looks fine, but then when you cut to the CGI cat, and it's obviously just a guy making cat noises into a microphone, it's awful. Norm of the North seems like the kind of animated movie that should have gone straight to DVD. In fact, that was the original plan, but somehow they got funding to release it to theaters. I don't know, but it got to theaters and it ruined everything. This is the movie that was released on the same weekend as Ride Along 2, and Ken Jeong was in this movie. What a horrible weekend for him. Rob Schneider proves once again that he's a horrible actor. He can't even do good in an animated movie. Like, he should just, like, leave forever. The animation, of course it's awful, you already knew it was awful, but what's even worse is the story, the jokes, the characters. They try to make Norm a likable character, they fail miserably, and this movie taught me something very important. People want to buy condos in the Arctic. And you can also move those condos to the Arctic by putting them on flatbeds on the back of trucks, and those trucks drive with condos on the back. That was a very important lesson to me. Gods of Egypt, when I saw it, I had to take a huge bathroom break in the middle of the movie twice, and when I went to the movie theater bathroom, I wanted to stay there. That's how horrible Gods of Egypt was. And a lot of people would say, oh, it's just funny bad. Gods of Egypt, it's hilariously awful. I didn't find that at all with this movie. It was just so awful, where it was awful. The visual effects are some of the worst visuals I've ever seen on the big screen. This is a movie that tries to have some likable characters like Beck, played by the Brenton Thwaites guy, and Horace, played by the guy from Game of Thrones. These two do not work together. They didn't seem like they were having a good chemistry thing going on. The girl who played Elektra in Daredevil was in this movie. I'm so glad she went to doing Daredevil, because she was awful in this movie. And of course, Gerard Butler trying to play Set with a Scottish accent that he tried to hide, but it just came out no matter what. And of course, my favorite thing about the gods in this movie is that they turn into robot animals and fight each other. That was so great. I remember reading that in my mythology book that I have in my bookshelf. I remember the chapter where they talked about how they could turn their body into metal and reshape their heads into their animal symbols. Bad Moms was a comedy that was so deplorable, so mean-spirited, so unlikable. I hated this movie to no end, to the point where I did a 27-minute rant on it, so I pretty much covered everything there. I'm not going to talk about it a whole lot here because I pretty much said my piece with that review, but I'm going to say some things real quick here. Apparently there are some moms that actually do like this movie. More power to them. Obviously, it's more geared to them. It's just I have a problem watching unrealistic, unredeemable bullcrap. And this movie was written by the guys who did the first Hangover movie. I don't know what happened since, because this is rock bottom. Bad Moms is rock bottom right here. And this was so irritating that it almost was my #1 worst film of the year. But there was always one movie that did something even worse that not even Bad Moms could do. And that movie is Dirty Grandpa. Is the movie that drained me entirely. I was watching this movie and I was like, alright, let's watch Dirty Grandpa. I've heard some terrible things, but let's give it a watch. And during the movie, I lost my mind. With Bad Moms, I was so frustrated at the movie, but I never lost it. In Dirty Grandpa, I was laughing at some point. No one was saying anything funny in the movie. It was just two people talking to each other, normal dialogue, and all of a sudden I was just laughing. I proceeded to take off my shirt and fling it to the other side of the room. I then grabbed this blanket right here and rocked back and forth in my chair. The movie literally drove me insane while I was watching this. And it's really understandable to know why I lost my mind. All I have to do is watch one scene in this movie, the B scene leading up to the jail scene. That is one of the worst scenes I've ever seen in a comedy movie, no doubt, this entire year. And also, this is the worst scene I've ever seen in a movie for the entire year. Basically, Zac Efron overdoses on crack. He wakes up on the beach with a fuzzy bee on his wiener, and a kid sees it and is like, I want to touch the bee on your wiener. He's like, no, back away, kid. And the kid comes up to him, and he's like touching it, and he's like, no, kid, move. And of course, it looks like he's making him suck the bee on his, And of course the police arrest him for this, and he's thrown in jail, and there's a drug dealer character with him, and he literally admits, I'm gonna sell some drugs to some kids, and the police let him out and give him the backpack with drugs in it and say, oh, that guy, he's one of the good ones. They keep Zac Efron in jail, who really didn't do anything wrong. It was just a really, really awkward misunderstanding, and then you have this drug dealer who is about to do something horrible, and they just let him out. Because logic applies in this movie. If your logic is for a person who has the IQ of -50 and below. I was literally drained after watching Dirty Grandpa. I didn't even have the energy to do a good rant on it. I just had to show you what it did to me. I literally lost sleep over this movie, and that is why it's my #1 worst film of 2016. What are your worst films of this year? Leave it in the comments below, and thank you guys so much for watching me for this year. I'm going to have a video on the movies I'm looking forward to in 2017. Can't wait to see you then, and as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.